Welcome to Flyover Conservative Podcast with David and Stacey Whited, where we break down current events and examine culture through the lens of conservative Christian values.
Welcome to another episode of the Flyover Conservative Podcast. In 2016, I feel like the conservative movement all sat back and watched Trump, and we all prayed that he would do 80 million things to save our country, and we watched. We sat on the sidelines, and we watched, and then in 2020, we watched somebody else come in and try to destroy the country, and now in 2024, I feel like the next move is instead of watching Trump do 80 million things to save our country again, we all need to band together. We need 80 million of us linking arms every single day to save our own country. And that is what this show is about, arming you with the information and the actions of what it takes to take back our country and to build a better country for our future kids and the future generations. So how are we doing that today? Well, we are talking about a whole bunch of things today. We got topics on South Africa with the new refugees that are coming in. We have a business consultant coming on, an author of a book called How to Build a Successful Business coming on, talking about 5 tips that you can do to either run your current business or start a business successfully right away. He's part owner in 160 different businesses coming on in just a minute. But first, if this is your first time watching, one of the biggest ways people always like, how can we help you guys? How can we help the podcast? How can we help amplify the voice? One of the biggest things is on these algorithms of every video platform you're watching. If you hit the like or the comment button or both, and then hit subscribe, so you know future content, that really helps us out more than as we start diving into the stats of how this actually works. What actually pushes the content forward so people can see it is if you hit that like button. It really is a big deal. I'm one of those ghost watchers. Avery, I don't know if you're a ghost watcher as well, but there's a lot of times I'll watch an hour's worth of content, 2 hours worth of content. I'll watch all this stuff. We'll take in, this video on YouTube and do this stuff, and I never once interacted on that content. So I'm telling you, as a content creator, as somebody that's putting content out there, liking and subscribing probably does more than you realize. Today's show is brought to you by FlyoverGold.com. Precious metals, man, it is the move. You're hearing it everywhere you go, and you're watching the Patrick Bet David show. If you watch Laura Logan, if you watch any of these content creators, they're talking about Flyover Gold. And at the end of the show, we're actually going to have an economic update. What is going on in the global economics? Why is everyone talking about this today? We'll be hitting that as well. But one of the things we did at FlyoverGold.com, that's just a landing page we put together. It got a video there talking about what's going on in the world right now, but also our precious metal dealer of choice. His name is Kirk Elliott, Dr. Kirk Elliott. Actually, he's doctor. He's got 2 PhDs. If your doctor does not have 2 doctorates, what are you doing? We got 2 of them. If your precious metals dealer does not have at least 1 doctorate, they're, 2 doctorates behind there. But he wrote a book called Thriving in the Economic Tsunami. We're giving that book away for free when you book your free consultation with them. Again, free consultation. You get to talk about what is going on in our economy, what's going on in the globe, how do you protect your assets, that which you built. I heard a great economist one time say, gold and silver is not an investment, it is a wealth creation. And what they meant by that was every ounce of silver that you're able to purchase, every ounce of gold that you're able to purchase is now wealth for you and your future. I was talking to a business mentor earlier this week, and he said he started buying gold at $400 per ounce. He said he buys gold and holds, and it's not a matter of how much is it going to go up, is it going to spike, but whenever you work so hard for your dollars. And then the government is doing the worst tax of all, and that is inflation. They just inflate the dollars, make them basically useless. When you buy gold and hold, it holds on to the value of that which you built, that which you worked so hard for. So buy it, work, sell some stuff, whatever you need to do, but get some silver, get some gold in order to hold your wealth. You can go to flyovergold.com to talk to our precious metals dealer of choice, and you get a free consultation when you do that, along with that book of Thriving in the Economic Tsunami. Great book, great content over there at flyovergold.com. So this last week, I think if you're watching any ounce of news, if you scroll even for a few seconds on X, you've heard about these South African refugees. And when I first saw it, probably like a lot of you guys, I was shocked. I was like, oh, wow, it's the white South Africans. Like, typically, you can't be racist against white people. And I was like, this is interesting. We're seeing them come. And then I started seeing the response from the leftist media when you see MSNBC and these different people coming out and they're like, we don't take refugees and white people. Trump's really showing his racism right now. I was pretty shocked. And then I started diving into it deeper. I'm like, hey, what is going on? What is really happening here? What's the thing behind the thing? If you watch the show at all, my dad always talks about the thing behind the thing. There's the thing that they put in front of you. There's the thing behind that. McDonald's is not a cheeseburger company. They sell cheeseburger on top of their real estate. They're a real estate company. Every McDonald's you ever see is owned by a franchisee, but the land that it's sitting on is owned by the McDonald's Corporation, and then they lease that land to the franchisee, and that's really where McDonald's makes its wealth. That's what drives the thing behind it. So the thing behind the thing, you see the cheeseburgers, they don't make, they're mega billions of dollars off of 6 cents on a cheeseburger. They make it based on the land that cheeseburger's being sold on. So what's the thing behind the thing? Well, I saw this clip. There's a name I want, if you're a Flyover listener right now, there's a name I think you need to be aware of, because I was not aware of it. I knew there was a lot of racism in South Africa, but I did not know this name, and I think it's very important. He's the head of the EFF, which is the Economic Freedom Fighters of South Africa, and his name is Julius Malema. And I think this video is pretty terrifying, pretty scary, but this is why we have white South Africans seeking refuge in America, and why I think it is justified. Check out this video.
He's scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we have not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal call.
Cry babies. Cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
I can't give you a guarantee of the future, especially when things are going the way they are.
Subtext.
Especially if things are going the way they are, there will be a revolution in this country, I can tell you now.
We are not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. That means at some future date, we may call for the slaughter of white people. Is that correct?
Let's deal with that at that future date. I don't know what's going to happen.
So you're saying you are not ruling out that in the future, you may very well call for the slaughter of white people.
It may not be me.
Could it be you?
It could be me, yes, but it may not be me.
Yeah, so it could be you. You could, at some future date, call for the slaughter of white people.
Shoot to kill the mother. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa.
Kill the boa, kill the farmer. Boa is Dutch for farmer, and that's the name that was given to the white farmers of South Africa, the boa. It's one of the #1 hits right now in South Africa, and as you saw there, stadium, thousands of people filled, singing the song, chanting the song. That's Julius Malema. Every one of those clips was Julius Malema. So an important name to keep in mind. And I was curious. I'm like, how like these are words, and apparently there's a 10-stage process of genocide, and we're currently on stage 6 in South Africa. That's where we're at right now. That is where South Africa is at right now. There's this video I saw of these crosses, and I was like, how many people are actually dying? Well, these are crosses. Not very smooth B-roll drone footage, but there's a drone footage of these crosses there. There's 4,000 crosses to represent the 4,000 farmers that have already been killed. The boas, the white farmers there in South Africa. So this isn't just an idea. This isn't just something they're talking about. This isn't just, some future thing. They are on the verge of genocide in South Africa. So we're taking in, I think we've taken in 65 of these South African refugees so far, these boas, the white South Africans so far. And there's been screaming from the left about Trump's racism. Oh, the only people he's wanting to take in are the left. And I think that the juxtaposition I'm wanting to draw a line here, the lines I'm wanting to draw right now, the Maryland father, the victim of the left, this MS-13 gang member who's been caught with human trafficking, is the victim that they've chosen to take on. The victim of the right is the boas of South Africa. The more that comes out about the Maryland dad, the worse it becomes. When they find police footage from years ago in the past and it shows him trafficking humans, every step of this process, it's worse. And because Trump is actually deporting MS-13 gang members over here, while they're saying he's like they can only look at it from the color of the skin. These are the white people that we're bringing in. And then you see what's actually being said by the head of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema. There again, remember Julius Malema. The juxtaposition here is so strong. So I was preparing all this stuff here, and then I found this video by Charlie Kirk, and I was like, he says it so articulately, he says it so well. I had to play this for you because he's pulling these parallels and giving an education of the history of this and the process of this. And I wanted to kind of break this down for you, and then we'll be right back in just a second.
Or the Afrikaners, or the Boers, are South Africans of European descent who trace back to a Dutch colony in the 1600s. They've been in South Africa almost as long as Europeans have been in America. The Boers live across South Africa. A large number of them work as farmers in rural areas. In fact, Boer literally means farmer in Dutch. They own large amounts of land and are highly productive. They keep the country fed, and they are the strongest parts of the South African economy, and they provide most of the food in South Africa. But because the Boers own the land and are successful, they're hated. There's a huge movement in South Africa, which, by the way, is an objectively beautiful country and is incredibly dangerous. We'll get that in a second. There's a huge movement in South Africa to forcibly seize the lands owned by white farmers so they could be redistributed to blacks. The biggest holdup is that advocates insist that the land not be paid for. We're just going to take it. They want the land to be seized with no transaction. Every year, South Africa exists on the brink of a genocidal explosion. It may not happen this year or next year, but every year the risk that things explode is there. One of the most popular political songs in South Africa is Kill the Boer, Kill the Boer. Not an exaggeration. The lyrics are literally just kill the Boer, shoot, shoot, shoot over and over again. This is radical Marxist blacks in South Africa talking about how they want to murder white African farmers. Play cut 260. That's the song. One of the largest political parties in South Africa, the Economic Freedom Fighters, is led by a man by the name of Julius Malema. Malema calls for, quote, cutting the throat of whiteness. He has openly said that he might, in the future, call for the extermination of all white people in South Africa. Some people aren't waiting. Every year there are gruesome murders on South African rural farms. There are roads like that of crosses of South African white farmers that are murdered by black radicals. Gangs will break into homes and torture to death everyone who lives there. Men, women, and children. These aren't home robberies. This is racial terrorism against white people. We've seen this pattern play out in other parts of Africa. Zimbabwe, otherwise known as Rhodesia, had very much the same. When Mugabe took power in Zimbabwe, there was a small white minority that ruled the country. They gave up power, but precisely because they were so economically successful, they were hated. The dictatorship, again, run by Robert Mugabe, a terrorist and a communist, interestingly enough, supported by the Soviet Union, terrorized white farmers and seized their lands without paying for them and drove them out. Now Zimbabwe can't feed itself, and Rhodesia went from the gem of Africa to the laughingstock of Africa. All of this is just us focusing on the worst violence imaginable. South Africa already has DEI, affirmative action, disparate impact, on steroids, just as a matter of its operating procedure. The South African Boers are, in fact, the ideal immigrants for any country, including America. So President Trump has now granted refugee asylum status for white South African farmers. These are the type of refugees we want in our country. They face systemic legal discrimination in South Africa. They face horrifying violence based on the color of their skin. A political party in their homeland openly calls for their genocide. But then on top of that, they're also desirable immigrants in their own right. They have useful skills. They're very close to America culturally. And they're basically the ideal immigrants. If we were to open immigrants, these are the people we want. And of course, that's exactly why the left despises them so much. Look on screen. All of them are flying American flags. I don't see 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗦 or the Mohammedans coming here doing that. You see, they want people with no skills. They want people who want American welfare. They want people who are culturally alien. They want people who will commit crimes against Americans. And of course, they've been looking forward to the genocide of white people in South Africa. They've wanted that for years. They were waiting and waiting for it to happen so they could swoop in, nod their heads and say, well, this is what happens when you oppress people. This is the natural outcome of apartheid. These South African refugees are more than welcome in America, but not if you are the American left. Yesterday, the Episcopalian Church, I put in quotes, announced that they will no longer do any refugee resettlement with the United States government in protest over this. They would rather have no immigrants than take the risk that a white person in danger might benefit from it. Basically, if you are a leftist, if you are white, there is no way you could ever suffer. You can't be a refugee. Only black, Hispanic, Muslim, brown people can be refugees. Here is MSNBC saying President Trump is racist for granting a refugee status to a people that are facing a genocide. Play cut 243.
Well, in my view, what makes it different is that they are white South Africans. The president, in my view, has not hidden his racism behind a bushel. In fact, in his policies, whether it's removing government workers or, in this case, admitting white South Africans while denying refugee status, asylum seekers from other countries, principally Central and South American and black nations, to come into this country.
Here's President Trump affirming that white farmers are indeed being genocided in South Africa. Play cut 244.
Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something. But we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. But it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
It's not a rarity. It is the rule in South Africa. Now, if you are in the American left community, you hate white people. It's one of your thou shall hate whiteness, thou shall hate white people. Listen to MSNBC saying this is deeply and morally wrong-headed to bear. How dare you help white people? Let them be murdered. Let them be genocided. So let me be clear. If you're on the left, you want to say, bring in the world sick and the diseased in the third world unless they have melanin content like this. If you look like this, you are the enemy. If you look like this, you are evil. Play cut 253.
So deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing, white supremacist movements around the world. That it's like the lost cause for them. It's like the old Confederacy. They're held up as these white Christians who are being dispossessed of their land. It's like this is a modern replacement theory in a country where, by the way, white people make up 7% of the population and own 78% of the farmland. So it's actually, there's no injustice here.
Oh, hold on a second. Wait. Why do you think they own all the land? Why do you think that is? It's not for a lack of trying. They've tried mass reparations in South Africa. It just turns out that the Dutch Afrikaners, they're better farmers and have more skills than a lot of the native population that tends to, when they own land, they don't produce as much. In fact, the Afrikaners, white farmers currently produce 95% of the corn of South Africa, 98% of the wheat, 97% of the cotton, 97% of the citrus, and I could go on. Oh, so it's their fault that they're productive, so they deserve to die. That is basically it. There are approximately 2.7 million Afrikaners. It's time for us to call the bluff of the left. Go all in. You guys wanted to flood our country with third worlders from Honduras and Pakistan and Nicaragua. We should bring in 1 million Afrikaners and make the left swallow that meal. Yes, they're Christian and they're white. So what? They have an entire government that wants to murder them. And guess what? They might end up in Georgia or Arizona or Pennsylvania. Oh, you don't like that now? All of a sudden, you guys are anti-refugee? You're anti-open borders? Sorry, turns out that you actually just hate white people. More than anything else, at your core, you are repulsed that someone might be called a refugee if they have white skin.
If you had a time machine and you could go back to, say, 1930 and you had 1 ounce of gold or a $20 bill, both of those would buy you a complete men's suit, brand new, the shirt, the tie, the belt, either one would buy you the whole thing. If you had a time machine and then you brought both of those resources into today, the 1 ounce of gold could still buy you a full suit at pretty much any men's store in America. The $20 bill, why, it probably only gets you a handkerchief or a pair of socks.
How do you get the gold and silver? Well, it's very simple. We have a friend that we've known for over 25 years. In fact, his dad was a mentor of ours, and his name is Dr. Kirk Elliott. And the way that you connect with him is you go to flyovergold.com. It's a website that we set up to make it very simple. All you do is go there, fill out your information, and someone from Dr. Kirk's team will get a hold of you to answer all of your questions. Whatever you have, they can help you out. Or you can simply call 720-605-3900. Again, 720-605-3900 to set up that free consultation. Do it today. You will be so glad that you did.
Today on the Flyover Conservative Podcast, we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is business. And when you talk about entrepreneurship, when you talk about the nuts and bolts, there's all kinds of businesses today. If you ever see the show Silicon Valley, where they talk about, you don't actually want revenue. You want to be pre-revenue because I want to make a whole bunch of money at one time. You start watching these weird businesses that aren't actually based on a product moving to an end consumer. It gets weird. I don't understand that stuff. I don't understand valuation of these giant corporations. But one thing I do understand is a product moving to an end consumer. And there is nobody better at talking about moving products to end consumers than today's guest. He is the author of lots of books, but my new favorite book by him is How to Build a Successful Business. There's no question on that. There's no, what is this thing about? He tells you right away on the cover how to build a successful business. And there's nobody better at doing that than Mr. Clay Clark. The man.
Greeting.
What is up, Clay?
Well, I'm excited to be here with you. And for anybody watching today's show, what we try to do on this particular segment is to give everybody action steps that you can apply to start and grow a super successful company. And I know it's your show, but I had a question for you.
Let's hear it.
When you guys started this Flyover Conservatives podcast, do you remember when it happened? Dick, do you remember was there a day, was there a specific moment where you're like, we're doing it? Or did your dad or your mom or your sister, was there a moment where you're like, we are doing it? Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember it very clearly. Yep. We started a Facebook group the year prior because there were so many people coming to my parents and like, hey, you guys are knowledgeable. What's really going on? It's 2020 and there was so much confusion and chaos and weird things. And the Facebook group had grown dramatically just on its own. We were giving it very little effort. We were putting stuff out there every day on it, but it wasn't like this intentional thing. And it grew to 15,000 people in this Facebook group. And I'm like, we need to start a podcast. And it was January 16th of 2021. And I was talking to my dad. It was late one night. And I was like, we're going to start a podcast. We're going to build a website. And by the end of that week, we had a podcast, we had a website, and we had it all up and running by the end of that next week.
Now, the follow-up question I have to that is, do you remember how you felt when you were developing it? Like when you were coming up with those first ideas, do you remember how that felt?
Yeah, a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation, a lot of overwhelm. A lot of oh my goodness, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. None of us had podcasting in our background. We'd never met somebody that'd been a guest on a podcast, let alone starting our own podcast. So it was a lot of late night YouTube videos trying to figure it out. How does this work? What about this? What about this? And trial and error and just sheer effort meets difficult task, and effort won. That's how that went down.
Well, I say this because there's somebody watching today's show and you want to start a company, or maybe you have a company and you want to grow it. And one of the things that can happen is if you're not careful, these emotions of starting a business or growing one, they can start to turn into overwhelm or into fog. You start watching endless videos, you start reading endless books, you start watching endless self-help gurus, and you get stuck. And so what I want to do on today's show is to get everybody unstuck. And I wanted to start by sharing a brief clip here, because I think when people think about entrepreneurship,
real quick, Clay, because I realized I missed a very important part of this introduction here. If you're listening to this today and you're like, wait, okay, so he wrote a book about business, what does that actually mean? Clay didn't just write a book. He wrote a book because he had all this knowledge in his head. He had to get it out, and he had so much real-world application. Clay's a part owner of 160 small businesses. And when I say that, when we go to your business conferences, you got one coming up in June here, June 5th and 6th coming up. in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And when you're there and you're talking to people, like you're engaged and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy runs a pool repair business. This guy runs a haircut thing. This guy runs, like, they're so unrelated, but they all have to do with moving a product to an end consumer. And your businesses overall do a couple $2 billion a year in sales of moving products to end consumers. So we're not talking about, some small mom and pop. Like, you run over 100, you're part owner in 160 businesses here that run. I mean, you're a fantastic entrepreneur at heart.
Okay, well, let me just add some meat to that. I'm going to pull this up on the screen because what you said is 100% true, and I just want to provide a little extra clarity for people who say, what are you talking about? So, like, OxyFresh is a brand that I've had the pleasure of working with for years. I didn't start the company. Jonathan Barnett's the founder of the company. He's been a client I've worked with for 18 years. He and I are partners together. They want a company called Elephant in the Room. It's a haircut chain. So I work with John Barnett with OxyFresh as a consultant, but then Elephant in the Room, we own that together.
Right.
And so one company cuts hair, one company cleans carpets. You go over here to 𝗕𝗢𝗄𝗢𝗦𝗢𝗔. These guys sell hot tubs, pools. They basically turn your home into a staycation.
Yep.
Then you have Pappagallo's at pizzeria. And I'm mentioning these because they're all dissimilar industries, like you just said. And how I get paid is I make a small percentage of the growth.
Yep.
And so typically we can double a company. We can double a company within typically about 12 months. So in 12 months, we double the company. And then once you double a company, then we can help that company continue to grow. But obviously it becomes harder to double once you get to a certain size. But this guy right here, 𝗧𝗢𝗗𝗢𝗢 there, if you look at him, Colton, if you had to guess how old this guy is, how old does he look to you? I know it's a little bit grainy on the footage, but if you had to speculate, does he look 75 years old? Does he look like he's...
I was gonna guess probably 25, 24 maybe, something like that.
Okay, and this guy, I want you to hear his success story, folks. He's grown his company by 33 times. He's 33 times larger. Watch this, folks. Here we go. 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗢𝗡𝗢, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
So I got to ask you, how did you originally come in contact with us there, sir?
Actually, through Spotify. 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗢𝗢𝗢, and then the name of the company is Automotive Lift Services. Our main niche is obviously fix and lifts, because we generally will prioritize speed of repair. So
he's grown his company by 33 times, folks. You might look at him and you say, 33 times? How do you grow a company by 33 times? This is him. 33 times. This guy has built a business that allows him to generate gross revenue that far exceeds most doctors. And he I don't know about you guys, but I don't think he looks like he's 30 years old. Now, somebody else, Colton, they're saying, yeah, but I'm over 50. I don't know if you can help me. This is Dr. Corrigan.
Okay.
We helped him grow his company by 500%.
It took a little time. There was about probably a 90 to 120 day delay before we started seeing things really pick up. But after we got over 100 Google reviews, it just really took off.
And for anybody out there that doesn't know this, to optimize a website, there's 4 key components. And by the way, if you go to Thrive Time Show, anyway, I'm just trying to give you examples. You have one guy here who's clearly, let's say, over the age of 20.
Yep.
You got somebody else over here who, now the first guy, 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗢𝗢𝗢, he doesn't use Google marketing at all. His entire business is grown through what we call the Dream 100 system. So he reaches out to automotive repair shops and he sells them solutions. The other guy markets not business to business, but business to consumer. And what we want to teach you on today's show is 5 moves that everybody can use, whether you're business to consumer, whether you're business to business sales, whether you're over the age of 60, whether you're under the age of 30, Colton, everybody can implement these 5 super moves.
I'm ready. I got my notes ready to go. I'm fired up. 5 super moves.
Okay. And by the way, they spell out SMART, folks. So here you go. 1, you got to make sure your goals are specific. So SMART, specific. So I sat down with Dr. Corrigan. I said, specifically, who are your ideal and likely buyers? And he said, well, soccer moms, people looking for a family doctor they can trust, people looking for, this is all pre-COVID, people looking for a doctor they can trust, people looking for a doctor for their kids. I said, but who specifically are you trying to reach? And we go through this process. Basically, we determined it's women who are soccer moms, that kind of, that's the make and model. I go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗢𝗢𝗢. I said, 𝗧𝗢𝗢𝗢𝗢𝗢, specifically, who are you trying to reach? And, every entrepreneur, by the way, they all answer this way. They go, well, I work with some women and some men and some people that, and I go, but stop it. Who specifically, we're not going to offend anybody here. Who specifically, if you're a rifle and you have one shot, who are you aiming at? He says, my target audience is dudes that own an automotive repair shop. And I go, okay, there it is. There. So step one, everybody needs to specifically write down right now, who is your ideal and likely buyer? And you and I were talking about this offline.
Yep.
And this is so great. We were talking about this offline, but I'll bring it online. You and I were talking about YouTube.
Yep.
And there's a person that I know very well. I won't mention their name and I won't mention their gender, but they are the songwriter for Wiz Khalifa and the songwriter for Jennifer Lopez. This is what they do. This is what their job is.
Okay.
And they became a Christian in the last 10 years. And one of the songs they wrote is now, they're embarrassed that they wrote it. Another song they wrote, they're embarrassed by it. And this person was railing against the system and trying to get secular artists to write songs that are Christian. And over time, she recognized, if I'm ever going to keep my salvation, and because she was a new Christian, I can't be in a writing session with Wiz Khalifa. Now, this is a true story. Wiz Khalifa, Wiz Khalifa's team, they wanted to write a song about how he was loyal to weed and loyal to his kids. That was the premise. They go to the songwriter and they say, could you write a song talking about how Wiz Khalifa is loyal to weed and to his kids? And said songwriter's like, I don't know that I can do that. But that's a real song. Then they go to said songwriter, Jennifer Lopez says, well, I want a song that's like the anthem for the LGBTQ community. That's what we need. We need a song. And imagine you're a Christian songwriter. You just became a Christian. And you say, because the vision this person had was, I want to write Christian songs that are on the top 40 radio. And they railed against the system for a decade before discovering it's not going to happen. And it's because they weren't specific about who they were trying to reach. Now this person writes songs, and if you go to church at a modern church or a non-denominational church, there's a strong possibility you're singing this person's songs on Sunday. So whenever the praise and worship teams get up there and sing, the person who makes residual income for playing that song in front of an audience, the artist that gets compensated would be this person.
Wow.
But it took this person 10 years 10 years of railing against the system before they recognized, and I want to make people really get this idea. This person would write a song with a pro-Christ theme and would send it to the secular artist, and the secular artist would turn it into a song about weed consumption, and the song to this day exists with the same melody, but they changed all the lyrics.
Dang.
That person would send song about being a committed father, being a committed mom, a committed wife, pro-Christ lyrics, and it got turned into an LGBTQ anthem. And I'm just telling you, you got to know specifically who your target audience is. And Colton, there's somebody watching this show. I know Josiah, great guy. He found us on Spotify. God bless him. This isn't a backhanded compliment. He just didn't know who his specific audience was. But once we focused on it, and I explained this to him, I said, listen, Google is not going to be an effective marketing tool for you. Oh, no. Google will not be effective. And he's like, but I'm at the conference here, and you're talking a lot about YouTube and Google. And I go, no, this does not apply to you, my friend. You must become a master of cold calling and actually showing up, driving to automotive repair shops and pitching your services. And then we went to Dr. Corrigan. And this isn't a backhanded compliment, but Dr. Corrigan was trying to reach everybody and reach the world with the good news about holistic health. And I'm going, no. You're trying to reach soccer moms that live within 10 miles of your store. And he's like, oh, yes, I get it now. Because so there's a little bit of that, Colton, and maybe you could maybe share your thoughts on this, but something's maybe a little not fun sometimes when you got to get specific on who your audience is. In my opinion, it could be empowering. It could also be demotivating. There's a little bit of both. What are your thoughts on that? Because, you can't reach everybody, although we might want to.
Yeah. Well, a light, when it's unfocused, it can light up the whole room, but it's not actually making too much of an impact. A laser is just the same light, is just focused on one specific thing. So when you're very specific about it, you can actually have an impact. When you're like so broad, it's hard to actually make an impact. So when you're able to sit down and be like, one of my favorite things is when we go to your conferences and you're talking through this book, you're breaking down the things in this book. and you get to the three-legged marketing stool. You're like, everybody needs the three-legged marketing stool. You need to master one and then be working on your 2 and 3 of how you're going to market your business. And there's like 100 options. You got this whole page of all these options of how you can actually market it. And it's not the same for every single person. It's not a one size fits all, but you need to master one. And I think some people try to, the new shiny object syndrome kind of thing. They're on YouTube and they're like, oh, 𝗙𝗢𝗢𝗦𝗢𝗢 said I should be doing this. And so they're on there and they're like pursuing this new thing. And they're like, oh, and I saw this over here. And so I'm going to buy Facebook ads on this thing. And then they're like, oh, and I'm over here. And I heard that this person got business traffic by door-to-door sales. Somebody did door-to-door sale. Oh, I really don't like getting rejected. So they bounce over here and they try 800 different methods versus mastering one while working on their 2 and 3 marketing techniques.
Tying into what you just said, this is so crazy. We were at one of our conferences about 10 years ago, and I'll never forget a lady by the name of Kat Graham. Her company's BarbieCookies.com. We helped her grow her company dramatically. And she's sitting next to somebody at the conference, and they're comparing notes. And Kat's like, oh, yeah, we get about 50 leads, a week from Facebook, and that's with like $50 of advertising. So for $50, we're getting 50 leads. And the person next to him is like, you get $50? And the person came up to me and they said, hey, this person over here is getting 50 leads a week for $50. How come with my business, you've been telling me not to do Facebook? And I go, well, because you sell metal roofs.
You're not going to have the same
government.
The same cost of acquiring a customer. Not the same. The CAC is not going to be the same on that one.
Exactly. So everybody out there, get specific. Step number 1, specific on who you're marketing to. Step number 2, you got to make sure that your goals are measurable. Measurable. Specific, measurable. What does it mean, measurable? Well, you have to know the metrics that make your life work. So I'm going to give you an example. My wonderful wife, she does a great job helping raise our wonderful 5 kids. And my kids, there's a lot of the kids right now that are starting to get into this whole we drive our own car phase. My son drives his own car. He's 8. My daughter drives her own car. She's 20. Then I've got my other daughter drives a car. She's 16. And so I know what it costs to insure the car, to own the car, and allow the car to get from A to B. And everybody watching this show, you have your own philosophy. You have your own way of doing it. You have your own way of parenting. My whole thing is I want my kids to pay for their own gas. And you might say, you're terrible. That's just what I want to do. Someone says, you should make your kids buy their own car. Whatever that is in your world, I'm just saying, for me personally, what I do is I say, look, you have a vehicle, you got to pay for the fuel for that thing. But my kids, once they figured out, okay, I have to work this many hours to buy this much fuel to get me from A to B, all of a sudden it becomes a specific goal in their life. So now they're like, Dad, can I work this many hours in the office, or can I do this many things? Because it's measurable. Another example would be our upcoming conference with Tim Tebow, June 5th and 6th.
Come on.
That event, just clear. I like to cap attendance for most of our conferences at around 200 people because there's a certain energy when there's 200 people, because everybody can ask a question. Okay, everybody can ask a question. Everybody can engage. Nobody gets left behind when you have a couple hundred people. Now we have Eric Trump coming in September, and when Eric Trump joins us, it's a little different energy. You say, what do you mean? Well, if you're going to go over 200, and again, I've been doing entertainment for years. If you're over 200, you might as well go to 500. What am I saying? The dynamics are different. Let me do an example. Dr. Zellner, my partner and friend, he will not do dinner with 7 people.
That's
you might say, what are you saying? He won't do dinner with 7 people. You say, why? Because he knows that if you have a conversation going on with 7 people, that ends up being 2 conversations.
Yep.
So the couple over here starts having their conversation, the couple over here. So he refuses to do dinner with 7 people. He literally has a rule of 6. And so if you're going to dinner with him, he'll say, how many people are coming? And if that number is more than 6, he won't go. Because he's like, that's called a party, and a poorly planned party. Now, if you want to have 50 people, he's like, I'm down. But if you're going to have 7, he won't do it. 8, because it's 2 separate conversations. So I'm just trying to make sure we get this idea. The event we're doing in September is going to be 500 people. The event we're going to do here in June, it's going to be 200 people. You say, why? 2 different energies, 2 different ways I do it. When you have 500 people, there's a whole different dynamic. So what am I saying? I know the break-even costs for our events. So getting back to measurable, you have to know these are three metrics that every entrepreneur watching this show has to know. Three metrics. 1, how many customers do you need to break even? How many customers do you need to break even? What's that number? How many customers do you need to break even? 2, how much profit do you make per customer? How much profit do you make per customer? 3, how many sales do you need? How many customers do you need to hit your goals? Now, I'm 44 years old, and I'll be very clear with our listeners. I pretty much hit all of my goals at a young age. so I could be described as a man without goals. And you might say, that's depressing. No, I have a lot of goals for my life. I just don't have a lot of business goals. So because I don't want to, I have 47 wonderful employees that work in this office. We've got 45 other people that work for the haircut business. I don't want to have thousands of employees just so I can check some box that says I have a yacht. Now I could, but tonight, the Celtics are playing. My wife and I have a friend of ours who is one of the coaches there. We love this. That's something we as a couple like to do. And so I'm going to be taking my wife on a date tonight. If I had aspirations to get to a certain size, I would probably not be taking my wife on a date on a nightly basis. But pretty much most nights, I take my wife on a date. You say, you take your wife on a date 7 days a week? Usually it's 6 or 7 days a week. Why? Because that's what I want to do. And I'm not interested in achieving other goals to impress other people that I don't know. But if you're watching today's show, you might have bigger goals than I have. You might have smaller goals than I have. But I'm just telling you, you got to have these 3 metrics. How much stuff do you need to sell to break even? Okay. How much profit do you make per thing you sell? And how many things do you need to sell to achieve your goals? And Colton, so many of my clients come into my life, and Josiah, that young man on the video when we started, when he first became a client, he didn't have a kid. And so we were just going, achieving massive goals. Then I'll never forget, he calls me up and says, hey, I've got a kid here. I want to realign my schedule. And he is doing great, but his life changed the moment he had a kid, because no longer is he going to work 7 days a week. Now he's really devoted to the wife, the kid. But he was, so again, different seasons. But everybody out there, you've got to know your measurable goals. Colton, maybe you want to add something to that, but I think it's so important for everybody watching this, because I've got clients that want to become billionaires. One of my clients right now has built $1 billion company. Amen. Power to him. I've got another client of mine who's happy to be a multimillionaire. It doesn't mean that one person's greater than the other. It's just everybody needs to know their own personable metrics. Everybody has to know them.
So good. I had a mentor early on in my business career when I was in my early 20s who was talking about whatever you measure, you can control. And what you can control, you can adjust. And he was talking about the first step of making a change in your life is just start to measure what you're already doing, whether that's your finances, whether that's whatever it is. So you got to first start by just measuring everything. So if you're wanting to lose weight, first step, how many calories am I burning? What's my weight? Start measuring things, because then once you measure, you can adjust. I remember talking to you about something. I'm like, we're going to launch this new product. We started Prosperous Marriage, and we were talking about how we're going to be able to help people. And I was like, well, I want to help marriages. I want to have a massive impact on marriages this year. My parents had this amazing marriage. It seems like it's out of a Disney film or something. And so we created this new product, and you're like, great. First step is just measure how many leads are coming in, how many sales are going, how many dollars did that create, what's this, what's the profit margin on that, how much does it cost you to actually get that product to an end consumer. So we started going through this, and you're like, and it really doesn't matter what the numbers are, because then you can adjust them. But I think there's so many people that move through life without measuring anything, so they're just always guessing. They're like, I don't know, it feels like this, and they're scared of the unknown of the future because they don't know. But once you measure it, then you can actually make adjustments. But you can't make adjustments until you have something you can measure. But then once you measure it, then you're like, I'm not making enough, or I don't have enough time, or this, whatever the area is, you can then start to make adjustments because you're already measuring. But if you choose not to measure, you can't ever adjust, and then you can't ever control anything, and you live your life out of control.
The words that you are saying are so powerful. I hope everybody will write these down. I'm telling you, folks, these are specific moves everybody can use. So step number 1, get specific. Get specific. Who is your target audience? Step number 2, measurable. Let's get these metrics in place, okay? A, actionable. Actionable. Now, I'm not going to take the room down, nor am I going to take the room up. I just want to make sure we're clear here. One of my clients came to me years ago, and they had a goal that was just wild, okay? And what they wanted to do is they wanted to completely revolutionize sports training, okay? This is a former Olympic athlete, true story. And he says, I want to revolutionize the way, completely change, transform the way that the athletes train. And I said, how so? And he had this product he invented. And he had spent 20 years trying to sell this product. And I'm not going to attack the guy. I'm be very vague. He came to me and he's like, I'm going to do it. This is an Olympic athlete. And I said, I want to tell you something. Do I have permission to be truthful to you? Can I be real with you? And he says, yeah. I said, the problem is not with the other consultants that you've hired and with the marketing brands. I mean, this guy had unbelievable marketing, unbelievable website. The packaging was great. I just said, what you're wanting to do is so different that you will spend your entire lifetime trying to change the world. And I think it's a better idea for you to sell something that the world already wants if your goal is to achieve financial freedom. Now, if you're wanting to die on that hill, buddy, go for it. And he told me, he said, Clay, that was one of the most freeing, liberating conversations ever, was to give up on this dream that he had been doing for 20 years and to pivot it into something that people actually wanted. And now he's very, very successful. He works with various Olympic teams, but it was just, he had such a revolutionary thing he wanted to do. And so I'm just being very clear here. You want to make sure your goals are actionable.
Love it.
And so on his task list, it was like, change the fitness industry. That isn't an action item, you know? So you have to break it into a specific thing. And so with this particular person, I'll tell you what we did for him. We ended up creating a system for him. And here was the system. The system was VISM. This is what we did. This is the system. So V, grab video testimonials from actual athletes that you've actually trained who've gone on to perform at the next level. And he's going, I could do that. I go, just get video. I mean, you claim you could transform the fitness industry. Why don't you just video real athletes that you've really helped, and then they can share their testimonies? I can do that. I said, okay, images. Why don't you gather images of all of your athletes that have won these Olympic awards? Just get images. So he says, what do I do every week? V, get video testimonials. I, get images of your athletes with the awards and the plaques and all the things they win. It's going to get VIS. Go ahead and write search engine content about the success they're having. M, okay? M. I know it sounds crazy. Get an athlete that's thinking about hiring you to go to the next level. They are going to read reviews. He says, Clay, I don't want people to hire me. I want them to use my all new approach to fitness. I said, I love it. I love it so much. I love what you're saying. And then, okay, so VIS, okay, so search engine content. M, more Google reviews. And then D, Dream 100. Make a list of the top athletes in America that you want to work with and reach out to them. And what he did is he started doing this every week. Video reviews, images, search engine, more reviews, Dream 100. He calls me up. He says, look, one of my athletes is going to be performing in the Olympics at this particular country. It was the Olympics were held in China at the time. And he says, one of my athletes is going to be in China. I'm going to go there. Another athlete's doing this. And he goes, it's working. And I'm going, yeah, it's working. So he's getting paid now as a consultant to work with top athletes. So he's making money. Will he ever completely revolutionize the way we train our kids and athletes? I don't know, but he's making money and he's working with athletes. So he's super happy. But before, he wasn't making money and he wasn't working with athletes. So if you're watching today's show, make sure your goals are actionable. Okay, so again, SMA, so specific, measurable, actionable. Now R, again, I hate to be negative. I'm not also telling pirate jokes, but are you ready for R? R is realistic. It has to be realistic. And I see so many entrepreneurs. If you watch enough Tai Lopez videos and you watch enough Gary Vaynerchuk videos and enough Jim Rohn videos and enough Tony Robbins videos on repeat, and that's what you're watching, and then you watch Invincible about the undrafted athlete that played for the Jets, and then you watch Braveheart, and then you watch Rocky, and if you're just in this like bubble of just woo, you're going to have goals that aren't realistic. You're going to start to say, Quarter 1, I want to do 10 million of sales from a cold stop. And you start having, and I'm just saying, let's make sure they're realistic. So back to the Josiah, this auto lift guy. I'm going, buddy, every week, how many calls are you willing to make to automotive repair shops? He says, I'll do 50. I'll hold you to it, 50? He said, yeah. I said, great. Okay, so let's do 50 calls a week. Can you do that? Okay. And how many testimonials could you gather via video of actual automotive repair shops that you actually work with? He goes, I could do one. I said, okay, so you make 50 calls and one video review. 50 and one. He goes, absolutely. And then all of a sudden you get momentum behind that. And Colton, you're a guy, you've done a great job with your marriage, with your business, with your life. You're developing momentum. You've created momentum. And there's something awesome that happens, after the idea of the Flyover Conservatives podcast, the new idea is done. But you start putting out shows, and now you're getting some comments and some feedback and some likes and some shares. And then all of a sudden, you get like a second wind almost because you have momentum. And I'd love for you to share, because you are an entrepreneur. Can you share about what it feels like when you have momentum?
Oh, man, absolutely. And there's some people that don't have momentum, and they're like, man, I just feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I'm stuck. And so I always just tell people, I'm like, if you feel stuck, just take action on what you know to be doing already. And a lot of times people get stuck because they get so stuck up in the clouds with this big dream. And dreams are good, but they're just goals without deadlines. And so starting to break things down into action-oriented things, I find, Clay, most people, and tell me if you agree about this, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 to 2 years, but they underestimate what they can do in a couple decades. And so sometimes people are like, man, I have this big thing. I want this huge, huge, huge thing. And that might take them like 20 years, but they think it might take them 2 years. And so they overestimate, they think they can get there in 2 years. I'm like, man, if in 2 years you've accomplished XYZ thing, that'd be amazing. And then over the course of 20 years, you'll probably accomplish what you're wanting to do. But life is long. 20 years is a really long time. 2 years is a relatively short time, but they overestimate what they can do in 2 years. They put the big dream as a 2-year thing. And I'm like, man, maybe set, a goal that is realistic that can drive you. Like sometimes when the weight is too heavy, it's like squatting. The dream is too heavy and you got 600 pounds on the squat bar, it's going to crush you. But if you can do, 100 pounds today and then 105 and then 110 and then 115, you'll be shocked how fast you could get to, 225, 250, 300. You'd be shocked how fast you can actually build up a shocking amount of weight by just incrementally increasing each day. Those small steps lead to really, really, really big goals big dreams down the line.
I hope everybody is going to take note of what you just said. Again, it is so important. Again, not only do you teach entrepreneurship, but you are an entrepreneur. And so hearing from, this is what you said, this is powerful. This guy right here, this is Thomas, okay? Thomas. And you might say, why is he doing this video in like a bunker? Where is this office? Well, he started his company in a small way. He basically rented the smallest space possible. And now he has a multi-million-dollar company. Okay, as I said, multi. So this is his company. Let me pull it up real quick so you can see. I'm going to pull it up on the screen 1 second. It's called Full Package Media. It's a real company. It's really successful. It's a multi-million-dollar real estate company based in Dallas, Texas, and it's working. It does work. It is working. It's very successful. I'd worked with Thomas for years. Here's his testimonial, folks. We'll listen to his story. You can do it too.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Thomas Crossan, owner and founder of Full Package Media in Dallas, Texas. I've been a coaching client with Clay Clark since the beginning of our business. We started about a year ago, August of last year. I had no clients, no idea what we were doing, no clue really what was going on. And now we've grown to where we've got 6 photographers, we've got office space here. I have admin, sales.
And this was recorded, Colton, like 5 years ago. Okay, here we go.
Worked for full time, developing an online system, and a lot of that growth we attribute to Clay helping us. And there's so many things that, his stuff is not revolutionary. It's not this crazy walk on hot coals and all this stuff. It's just real stuff. And like group interviews, we were totally against group interviews.
And he goes on, it's kind of a backhanded compliment because it's not revolutionary, it's not super exciting, but it works. And I just think somebody out there, we really need to dial into this idea. I'm going to show you one more website here. This is so important. I want people to know it is possible. So this is Josiah's website. It's autoliftserve.com. He's in Iowa, and he repairs auto lifts. Thomas, the guy I just showed you, he came here from Dallas, Texas. He was a paramedic. Never been self-employed before. Now he has a multi-million-dollar company. I want people to know this. He makes more money now than most pro athletes. Thomas Crossan does. And it's residual. And it's every year. And it's real estate photography. And he'd never done it before. Never done it before. So again, SMART, with a limited time, we have specific, measurable, actionable, realistic. And the final thing is time sensitive. And I think this is one of my superpowers. I sincerely believe that every day will be my last day on earth. And I'm shocked if I'm wrong. Let's try that again. I sincerely believe that every day on earth is my last day on earth. And if I at the end of the day, if I wake up the next day, I'm always shocked that I'm still here. I mean that. So you say, well, how did you do the Reawaken tour? I don't have anything to lose. I didn't do the Reawaken tour to become famous or to start a revolution, or I just knew that the lockdowns happened to be unconstitutional. And in Hebrews 10:25 tells us to not forsake the gathering, even as we draw closer to the end. So I did it. People say, well, how did you get 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 to start coming to your conferences? I literally harassed 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's team, God bless them, for over a decade, just begging and just, please have Tim come to our conference, please. Finally, they say yes. People say, how did you become friends with Eric Trump? It's the same process. And no matter what industry I'm in, what I do with my clients, when clients team up with us, we come into their life and I create this ridiculous sense of urgency where I'm going, we have got to achieve your goals now. And they say, why? I said, well, because Jesus is coming back. You might be dead soon. The Antichrist might show up, or we might be here for 100 more years. Who knows? But let's go.
Yeah.
And once you put that kind of sensitive energy behind your goals, it becomes fun what you can accomplish. And so I want to show people some calls to action here. One, if you go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏𝑇ime.show.com, you're going to see a bunch of clients that will give me sort of reverse. It's like these backhanded testimonials. They'll say, well, you know, he didn't teach me anything that's really revolutionary, and it wasn't very exciting. But yes, I've grown from 60 employees to 300 employees. I mean, you're getting a lot of people that those kind of testimonials would say, you know, we do the same thing every week, but we now make more money in a year than we used to make in 10 years. But, you know, there's a lot of that. There's a couple exciting testimonials here, but usually it's just normal people who've had massive success.
Yep.
And so if you go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com, you can learn more about these success stories. And the 3 calls to action I have for you is, one, go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com, click on the testimonials button, and you're going to see thousands of testimonials. That's step 1. Step number 2, if you go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com and you say, hey, I want to learn more about an upcoming workshop. I want to learn more about it. I want to request tickets. What does that look like? Go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com. And when you request a ticket, tell them that the Flyover Conservatives sent you. And what that does, it enters you in for a chance to win a backstage pass so you can meet 𝗕𝗘𝗢𝗄, so you can meet Eric Trump. And by the way, the tickets are $250 or whatever price you want to pay.
Come
on.
on.
And you say, why would you do that? And it's because I grew up poor. I know what it's like to not have money. I know what it's like to need a hand up. So my hand up, I worked at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. And there's no problem with anybody who works at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. But I do know that if I would have been able to have access to a conference like this or a mentor like what we provide, I would have gotten there a lot faster as I was building my first companies. And then finally, if you want one-on-one business consulting, if you say, I want to grow my company. This right here, this is Trisha in the background here. Trisha behind Eric Trump. They've grown their business by 8 times. Papa Gallo, the pizzeria business. This is Charles Kolaw. He's tripled the size of his company. I mean, so again, if you want to become a success story, I would encourage you to take action. So what are those calls to action? 1, go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com, click on the testimonials button, see if these stories resonate with you. There's thousands of success stories. 2, if you want to attend a conference, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay, June 5th and 6th with 𝗕𝗘𝗢𝗄, September 25, 26 with Eric Trump. Or finally, if you want to become a one-on-one consulting client or you want to just learn more about it, we charge clients $1,700 a month. We also have scholarships available for people in need. And how I make my wealth is I typically get a small percentage of the growth. And so when you have 160 clients that are all having massive growth, and in my case, you know, you're making a small percentage of that growth, it really works out well. So I encourage everybody out there, go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com. A lot of info, but I think, Colton, this is powerful because people watch this show because they're tuning in for the show. But behind this show, there's this entrepreneurial system that you guys have built, and you're living it. And so I love joining with you because you actually have gone through the range of emotions that entrepreneurs experience.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first time we met you, I was like, man, I think we just became best friends. Like, I loved your mindset. I love the pace. I love the pace of success. It's very attractive. And you set that pace every single morning, every single day in your office and in your home and everywhere you go. So I appreciate you, Clay. I appreciate getting to work with you. My brother-in-law gets to work with you as well on his other business. And we, you know, everything we do, everybody I talk to that runs a business, I'm like, it feels like I'm trading a penny for $1 every time I get to do an exchange with you. The exchange is so counter in the opposite direction of most things in life. Most things you give more than you're able to get. With you, every time I give anything, it seems like I get 10 times the return. So thankful for you and this relationship. Guys, go to 𝗧𝗢𝗄𝗏.show.com, or you can fast track it by texting 918-851-0102. Text the word flyover to 918-851-0102. James and Clay and their team over there, they'll take care of you. They are awesome at making money. And if you want to make more, that's the guy to talk to. Thank you, Clay.
Hey, Flyover family, come join us. We're going to be there with Clay Clark and an amazing group of individuals that have made such a difference in so many people's lives.
Do you want to increase your production in a job? Do you want to make more sales? Do you want to own your own business? Do you want to have breakthroughs financially? The key to that is knowledge.
Clay Clark is anointed to help people in business. We've watched him over the last couple of years, and we've been blown away. He's part owner of over 160 businesses, $2.4 billion in sales.
So before politics and the Great Reset came into Clay's life, he had the #1 rated Apple podcast. And he interviewed people like Anthony Robbins, Seth Godin, the top authors, the top business minds in the world. At this specific event, there was an interesting cast of characters that come from gangs to American Idol. They're there to share what they've done and their breakthroughs and what their story is. And then Clay lays his map of business success, calls the path for every person to follow.
So you may be sitting there thinking, okay, I get it. What do I have to do? Go to thrivetimeshow.com. When you get there, the tickets are $250 or whatever you can afford. Yes, you got that right. $250 or whatever you can afford. You can name your price. So there are no excuses. You have to join us there. There are only a few VIP tickets left. Like David said, special dinner and special time with the speakers. That is $500 while they last. So $500, only a few left if you want a VIP ticket. We want to meet these speakers as well, so we got VIP tickets.
I want to meet Tim Tebow. All right, Flyover family, more than ever, knowledge is power. We have the author of this book, Thriving in the Economic Tsunami. You might have heard us reference it quite a few times. It's now available to you as a free download. If you go to flyovergold.com, you can be reading this book right now. Everything from what is $1 million cup of coffee, incredible information. If you have children, if you still think like a child, or you know children, any of those scenarios are perfect for you, as well as understanding inflation. How does it impact you? How does it secretly weave its way into your world? And
who wants to thrive? Everybody wants to thrive. Nobody wants to just survive.
Just survive. Like, hey, we made it. What if you come out on the other end ahead? That's a good way to be. So you go to flyovergold.com and download a free PDF version of this book and be reading it immediately. But we have something even better than that. We have the author of this book, the one, the only Dr. Kirk Elliott.
Yay! Welcome.
Hey, it's so good to be with you as always, especially in a time of turmoil and chaos and uncertainty, and people don't know what to think. And, it's good to listen to Holy Spirit and have him give us all supernatural, spiritual downloads of wisdom and nuggets of truth that can actually bring peace in the midst of the storm. And that's what we've got. I mean, I was watching the news over the week, and all of the mainstream media is saying that how bad Trump is and how these tariffs are going to destroy the economy. And Trump is very resilient in saying, no, I'm actually going to win this thing. You just haven't seen it yet. And so is Secretary of Treasury 𝗢𝗡, and so is Secretary of Treasury 𝗦𝗡𝗢𝗏. And you look at what the stock market did, and it's going up. So then why do you have these stories that are contrary? Right? This is where we need wisdom and discernment to navigate through some of this stuff. So, I was reading, as I tend to do a lot. But Bridgewater, one of the largest hedge funds on the planet, right? And Ray Dalio, I think the guy is very smart. He's a brilliant guy, actually. They have this newsletter called Connecting the Dots for all of their investors. Now, I want to read you some of it.
Okay.
Because I think what this paints the picture of is what Trump and 𝗢𝗡 and 𝗦𝗡𝗢𝗏 have said. This is kind of Biden's economy for a little bit until we can bring the jobs back to America and we can grow things, right? So, but what Bridgewater is basically saying is, in a bad way, this paradigm shift that we're seeing globally, the way that money is viewed, the way that banks can actually operate, is going to destroy things for like a really long time. It's like, I disagree. And I'm not saying that I'm smarter than Ray Dalio. I'm certainly not. But what I'm saying is political opinions drive your ideology, right? And so, or your ideology drives political opinions. I should have said it the other way. And they're believing that Trump isn't going to win, right? And so therefore they come out with these statements. So here's what this article says, and I'm just going to read just small bits and pieces of it. It says, To state the obvious, we are now facing a radically different economic and market environment that threatens the existing world order and monetary system. They're viewing this as a negative. I'm viewing this as a huge positive. It's like, yeah, the existing world order and monetary system needs to be turned upside down.
For sure.
Definitely.
That's what's killing the middle class.
Yep.
Yeah, the middle class, the lower class, they want everybody not equally rich. They want everybody equally poor, right? And this is where you look at things that have happened over the last 40 or 50 years. NAFTA, for example, you know, if you're a capitalist, it's like, why wouldn't you want free trade? This is what NAFTA brought to the table. It's like, no, it didn't. NAFTA wasn't about free trade. NAFTA was about bringing up Canada and Mexico, and America got the short end of the stick. One of the worst trade deals ever for the history of America. But yet, capitalists and proponents of free trade said, this is great for the world. And it's great for globalism, not good for America, right? So anyways, this goes on to say, well, that's the first point. I think that this transitioning of the way things have been in the world order is a good thing, not a bad thing, right? So let's start with that. Secondly, we have been transitioning to this world order for several years, but now the shift has sharply accelerated and become chaotic. So this new macroeconomic and geopolitical paradigm is turning past tailwinds into headwinds and reshaping global flows of capital. So what are they saying right there? They're saying, you know, America, this is my interpretation, America has funded the rest of the world to make the have-nots become haves, but in that, America has become the largest debtor nation on earth. Right? Look at our $37 trillion worth of debt. As we contribute more to the United Nations than any country in the world, and yet we have no say. We don't have equal voting rights. Right? We're just funding all these things, like NATO and everything else. And you know, Martin Armstrong, I know you've talked to him numerous times, but he basically said Europe does not want peace. The U.S. needs to get out of NATO like yesterday, because this is going to actually, in his words, this thirst for conflict in Europe, they don't want peace because the banking cartel in Europe makes money on both sides of the war.
Yep.
Right? So it's like the euro is going to be destroyed. The dollar is going to be king. Right? That's his final analysis. And Europe is going to do themselves in. Their whole thing of wanting to actually go against Russia in a really big, bad way to help their friends in Ukraine, right? It's like, this is going to devastate Europe. So the euro, in Martin Armstrong's view, is going to go away. Well, the globalists hate this, right? And this narrative coming from Bridgewater tells the globalist point of view. So point number two is, whenever we hear anything on mainstream media, or whenever you hear anything on alternative media, like conservative media, take it with a grain of salt, test it against, you know, Holy Spirit guidance and discernment and wisdom in your life, but also test it against logic. And what is the bias of the person writing the article, right? Because if you listen to so many things, it's like, boy, Trump's tariffs are going to be bad for the world. It's going to be bad for everybody. It's like, no, it's not. It's going to be pretty bad for the world, but it's going to be great for America, right? This is just what happens. But manufacturing coming back to America is ultimately going to be good for the rest of the world too. Because as more Americans are working, nobody spends on this planet like Americans do. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's the reality, right? And so as we're working and spending, ultimately we are going to buy more foreign goods as well. Whether they're expensive with tariffs or not, people are people. And if they really want something, they're going to spend it if they have the money. They don't have the money if they don't have jobs. So the fact that Trump is going to bring jobs back to America means ultimately this rising tide lifts all boats, right? But it is going to be especially good for America, right? So anyways, we go on. Facing this new reality, everybody must adapt. Those who adapt fast and well will gain at the expense of those who adapt slowly and poorly. Okay, I kind of agree with that statement, but what's the adaptation that needs to be made? You know, the adaptation is, as some of these markets collapse, as currencies collapse, as the banking system as we know it becomes irrelevant. I mean, look at the conflict that Trump is having with Jerome Powell, right? Because to think that the Fed is apolitical and independent, that's not, never has been ever, right? But yet there's this battle going on saying, and what is the crux of this battle? Trump is basically saying, hey, Jerome Powell, the Fed is irrelevant. It's simply irrelevant. The way that money has been created with debt in the past with you, and this is my paraphrase, right? Trump didn't say this exact thing. It's my paraphrase. It's like, you just print money willy-nilly without any tangible backing by U.S. treasuries, and people pretend that you're a legitimate agency. Well, you're just printing money out of thin air, keeping the U.S. economy afloat. It's like, how about this? How about we change that and we keep the economy afloat by having other countries pay for our bills with tariffs, rather than you just printing money out of thin air with something that doesn't matter and causing inflation, right? So how do you adapt in a situation like that? Well, first you have to identify. You identify that the world is changing, and then as people lose confidence in banking as we know it, what do they go to? They go to something that's real and tangible, like gold and silver, or they go to something that's completely out of the system, like decentralized blockchain. Think of like Bitcoin. Right? So the emergence of cryptocurrency and gold and silver both going up at the same time tells me that the world is changing. Bridgewater is not wrong, but the way that they operated in the past where, yeah, let's just buy these sovereign debt, let's buy these bonds, let's buy these stocks, let's buy these things, that, as we know it, I think is a diminishing thing, where getting out of the system into something that's real or into something that's private, like gold and silver are real and private. Cryptocurrency is at least private, right? They're getting out of things that they knew in the past. And people that don't, this is where I agree with this article, this newsletter, is normalcy bias will ultimately kill a person's portfolio. And normalcy bias is simply this: oh, it didn't hurt me in the past, so it's not going to hurt me in the present or the future. That's what normalcy bias is. So you have things in the past being normal, and if you don't act, you will get hurt. If you do act, you could get out of harm's way. This is where this article is saying those who adapt now could actually profit from things. They're not talking about gold and silver in this article. I am. They're talking about the normal things. How do you adapt, and how do you maintain in a world that has been, and you don't actually get out of that world? Well, that's like the definition of insanity.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
Continue the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, here we look at what's going up, what's coming down. Countries around the world are allocating into gold like it's nobody's business, whether their motives are pure or impure. Right? So China dumping U.S. treasuries, using those proceeds and buying gold. They're in it for self-preservation. They might be dumping the dollar to really hurt America, but the reality is still the same. Is that gold and silver are going up. For us, there's no impure motive in why we buy gold and silver. We just identify the trend, and we want to take advantage of something that's way bigger than us. Way bigger. This is a global thing. It's not just for conservatives. It's not just for believers. It's not just for Americans. This gold and silver are now a tier 1 asset at the Basel III level, you know, the accord that says tier 1 assets are the same as cash and cash equivalents. It viewed liquidity-wise, safety-wise as the same. So therefore, if you don't like cash because you think banks are coming down, allocate into the other tier 1 asset, gold and silver, right? So here's where we get to use biblical wisdom, test the voices that we're listening to, make sure that they resonate with your spirit, make sure that it's logical, right? And if it checks both of those boxes, you know that you're not operating on emotion, you're operating on biblical wisdom. And this is where, to me, gold and silver really will thrive in this kind of environment as the paradigm has shifted, according to Bridgewater, and I agree with that. I just don't view it as a bad thing. I view that as an amazing thing and an answer to prayer They can finally get America back as the king of the hill, you know, what the founding fathers envisioned for us, because the playing field is being equalized. You can't really win a game if people cheat all the time. Well, I mean, I guess you could, but boy, equal playing field, the ingenuity of America, the hard work of Americans, capitalism, freedom, property rights. This is what America was based on, and Trump is getting us back to that point.
Woo! That is so exciting.
It is. And, you know, and for years, you know, with the profits off of American stupidity, foreign nations have been gobbling up American land, American companies, I pulled up a list the other day, you know, companies that kind of think are like American companies. And that's why also if America does well, these other nations, you know, do well as well. But 7-Eleven, Firestone Tires is owned by Bridgestone. Bridgestone is a Japanese company now since NAFTA, 1988, in that range. Trader Joe's is German. Chris Craft Boats, which owns Winnebago, German company. L'Oreal Cosmetics, Ritz-Carlton Hotels, those are all French companies. Gerber Baby Food, owned by Nestle, Swiss company. Purina Food, Purina Dog Food, owned by Nestle, which is owned by the Swiss. AMC Theaters, which owns lots of different brands, everything all the way down is owned by China. Smithfield Food, the WH Group, owned by China. Belgium owns Anheuser-Busch, and all the beverage companies that come from that you kind of think the Clydesdales, that's an American brand. It's not. You know, India owns Jaguar, Land Rover. Burger King is owned by Tim Hortons, Canadian company, restaurant brand. Ben & Jerry's, owned by Unilever, which is owned by Canada. South Korea owns many companies as well. So it's like over these years, as we've been bled out, other nations have come in and taken, while we're funding their safety, we're funding the global police, basically. All of our trade deals are lopsided in the tariffs, and so they're making a killing, and we're getting bled out. It's this, like you said, lowering the haves and then lifting up the have-nots to put everybody on the same playing field. So when you realize that's happening, you can stop participating in it because, also we talk about tier one assets. It's kind of cool to be involved in one that goes back earlier than America, goes back to biblical times, because, the Dutch currency, and there's a million things that have been a tier one asset, but gold and silver have always been, the others come and go, no different than this.
That's exactly right. So Flyover family, if you're listening today and thinking, man, I need to get some questions answered, I need to make some decisions for my family, for myself, or you're like, I need to get some more silver, it's very simple. You just go to flyovergold.com, fill out your information. Someone from Dr. Kirk's team will get a hold of you to answer all your questions.
Yeah. These guys are great. They will take such good care of you.
Yeah, then you can make wise decisions for your family, wise decisions for yourself, that you can sleep at night, lay your head down, think, okay, I have made a good decision. You just simply go to flyovergold.com, fill out your information, or you can call 720-605-3900, 720-605-3900 to set up that free consultation. And also, David was talking about the book earlier. If you would like your free
get this for
book,
sure.
Again, just go to flyovergold.com, fill out your information, and that'll be sent directly to your email. Dr. Kirk, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Flyover family, do this today. You will be so glad that you did.
Everyone is talking about this.
The one thing that's very important part of my portfolio all these years is gold.
Has gold hit all-time highs already this year?
Everyone is talking about this.
The one thing that's very important part of my portfolio all these years is gold.
Has gold hit all-time highs already this year?
And get a free info kit on gold today.
It's called silver.
Gold coin.
And though we are thrilled that everyone is talking about investing in precious metals, a lot of these 1-800 numbers will make you feel like just another transaction. That's why it's crucial to work with a person, not a faceless institution, when it comes to your finances. You deserve to be treated like family, not just another number. Dr. Kirk Elliott, who we've known for over 25 years, he doesn't just sell gold and silver, he offers trust, care, and a personal touch that an impersonal institution could never match. So when it comes to securing your financial future, don't just call a company, call a person. Call Dr. Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or visit flyovergold.com to learn more.
Imagine the church as a big ship. It was in 2020 we put up our sail of destiny. It went up and the church as a whole was getting ready to sail out into tomorrow. It was like he had opened the heavens. We were going forward into destiny. And just about the time we were ready to set sail, the skies turned black and the wind was blowing, lightning was flashing, and it started trying to hit our sails and blow it apart. And we looked at the election. Everybody said, it's fine. Went to bed that night, woke up, and all hell had broke loose. Suddenly, it was put on hold. Everything went on hold, and we had to fight a war.
Let my people go!
Every city has a voice. Hollywood is the film industry. New York is financial industries. Nashville, Tennessee is the sound. It's the sound of the nations. Well, when the war ended in November 5th, 2024, the Lord spoke to me and he said, go back the way you came. He said, go back to the opera and pick up the sail of destiny where it was stopped, and now sail on out into the destiny. So we're going back to the Grand Ole Opry in July the 3rd to redeem the time. And from that point, the dismantling tour begins, and we're going to head out into a brand new tomorrow. And this time, we're on this side of the page, so we have a chance to pick up where we left off. So it's going to be a day to be remembered. I want to encourage everybody, come, get our feet on the sound of America, and let's prophesy to the world. On this side of the page, things are going to be different. On this side of the page, things are going to be grand.
Everything that we see when it pertains to the stock market or gold or silver, any market, is going to go through ups and downs, right? You have 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Well, this report by 𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗏 talks about, is this a dead cat bounce? No disrespect to dead cats, right? It's like, it's just what it's called.
And
right?
why do they call it that, Dr. Kirk?
I don't know, other than, I mean, this is going to sound horrible, but you know, basically it's the name of it. If you throw anything that's dead on the ground, it's just going to bounce. It's lifeless. It means nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they happen to call it a dead cat. I don't know why. Sorry, cat lovers. Could have been called a dead mouse, a dead dog, but they called it the dead cat, right? So if you look at where we are in the stock market, it's very reminiscent of the .com bubble in 2000, where you got to this massive high, and then it came collapsing down, and then it started to go up a little again. It was like what Jesse calls us the whoops, we're saved moment, and then it comes crashing down, another oh no, and then it goes up a little bit, and it's like whoops, we're saved, right? And ultimately, it's going to hit rock bottom. We will hit rock bottom, I think, in the stock market in the short and medium term. But here's where gold and silver are going up a lot because of the fundamental issues of Trump's tariffs, right? So as China starts dumping U.S. treasuries, they're using those proceeds and they're buying gold. Now, ultimately, they're going to wish that they wouldn't have dumped the U.S. dollar. Right, but it's really the only retaliatory move that they have to try to beat Trump. But they have to do it right now to raise money, because once the economy starts kicking, when manufacturing comes back, the dollar is going to be robustly strong. So this is where Trump is actually an economic genius, right? And where he's going with the U.S. economy. But we get to take advantage of some of this nonsense, right? As other countries try to beat Trump, knowing that they can't, because like we talked about, when the dollar tanks, other currencies are relatively stronger. We're going to increase our exports to the rest of the world because they're cheaper, and this actually plays right into Trump's hands.
For more great content, go to flyoverconservatives.com.
There is no such thing as a prescription drug deficiency in someone who's depressed. There's no need for serotonin reuptake inhibitor if you have anxiety. You don't need any drugs that block your ability to absorb serotonin, hoping to increase the amount of serotonin in the body by not having your body use that serotonin. By the way, serotonin's a hormone that makes you feel good, happy, and safe, and they destroy that by telling you to do a few things. They tell you to stop eating fat and reduce your fat intake. Did you know you can't make serotonin without fat being converted in cholesterol first in your liver? And then the cholesterol from that fat gets circulated in your body, and then the cells in your intestines produce serotonin that circulates throughout your body, and it makes it from cholesterol, and cholesterol is made from fat. So you've all been lied to for 50 years, told don't eat fat, reduce your fat intake, and get on cholesterol-lowering drugs. And now what do you see? The top 4 prescribed drugs in America are all antidepressants.
Wow.
And now you know why.
I want to get into your relationship with President Trump and that role there, and your book and the title, the 𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗓 to Mars is fascinating, but you've overcome a lot in your life. There's 2 big things I'm aware of. One, overcoming cancer as a child, stage 4, given a 5% chance to survive. Unbelievable. But also, as I was researching this, you also shared the name Nick Adams with someone who very flamboyantly does the drag and dance performance and these things. Which has been the hardest thing for you to overcome? The frustration of this impersonator stealing your name, identity, using it for nefarious purposes, or what you overcame as a child? What's been the hardest thing you've had to push against?
Look, without question, the most difficult thing that I've ever had to overcome, David, was certainly my illness as a child, being diagnosed at 16 months with 𝗦𝗢𝗢𝗓𝗦, a very rare form of childhood cancer, almost impossible to diagnose. Wow. And when it is, the tumor has almost always already metastasized. And a child, an infant, a baby with stage 4 𝗦𝗢𝗢𝗓𝗦 is given just a 5% chance of life. So for 3.5 years, I underwent chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and an operation. And through the healing hands of God, our master physician, I defied the odds and lived. And
praise the
as
Lord.
soon as thank you, absolutely. And as soon as I became old enough to realize what I had escaped, I resolved that I would never, ever waste a single second of a minute, of an hour, of a month, of a year, ever. And I'm delighted to be able to tell you guys and the Flyover Conservative audience that I have very much lived up to that self-commitment.
Well, you're quoted as saying, like, anytime you got at least a 5% chance, then lean into it, basically, then go for it. It reminds me of that line in Dumb and Dumber where, he's wants the girl, and he's like, well, what are our chances? She's like, 1 in a million? He's like, so you're saying there's a chance,
Yes.
But I just want to highlight that because that is such a big thing. Because if you're running late to the airport, well, there's a chance we might miss our plane. There's a chance we might make it. Until we don't make it, let's lean into the fact that we will. Like that small concept has to have affected everything that you do, because if there's a chance of success, there's always at least a chance, and I mean, but most people are like, I don't know, it's only a 50-50 chance I can succeed at this. I don't know if I want to audition for that. I don't know if I want to start this company. I don't know if I want to ask her out. I don't know if I want to, like, people sit in these limbo vacuums because there's a percentage chance they might not make it. But your life is sort of summed up by, if there's a percentage chance you could make it, then give that percentage all your energy.
You're absolutely right. I live every day as though I'm in credit. And I have a very strong faith, and I've always believed that God saved my life because he had a particular purpose for me. And over the years, I've come to find that is helping America stay the course, being an outside voice, being someone that reminds America of what it is and how it must never change. And that whole mindset that you were alluding to, David, I mean, it really feeds into 2 incredibly uniquely American traits, which I love. One of which is optimism, always being optimistic, always being positive, the power of positive thinking. Norman Vincent Peale comes to mind. And then, of course, I mean, you think about President Trump, this is what my whole book is about, this is a man who uses the power of positive thinking to get through the most unbelievable adversity. No one has gone through as much adversity as that man. But it is optimism. It is the power of positive thinking. And the other thing, of course, is determination and resilience, which President Trump also has in spades. And
for sure.
If we can as human beings have that optimism, have that determination, we can do anything we set our minds to, particularly if you live in America. When I go and speak to K-12 students across this country, which I do often because I have a nonprofit group called FLAG, the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness, which is all about teaching civics. I tell these kids that the day that they were born in the United States of America, or the day that they moved permanently to the United States of America, is the day that they won the lottery of life. And they've got the best chance of achieving whatever dreams God put in their heart, because this is the country where it is least likely, not impossible, but least likely that someone is going to get in your face and tell you that you can't do it, that someone is deliberately going to throw up roadblocks. This is a place with the least amount of gatekeepers and kingmakers and establishment types and bosses that put up walls. And I found that the American people give you their shoulders, where the people in the country I was born in, turn their backs.
For more great content, go to flyoverconservatives.com. Not all freeze-dried meats are created equal.
With flyovermeat.com, you get grass-fed, grass-finished beef grown right here in the United States. And it's not full of mRNA technologies and vaccines and things that are going to hurt your family. This ensures you're only going to get the best.
Their freeze-drying process locks in the nutrients, so you're getting the same health benefits as you would if it was fresh meat.
Each 4-ounce package rehydrates to 1 pound of raw beef that you can cook and turn into your favorite recipes, from chili to tacos to a hamburger, whatever you want.
So go to flyovermeat.com. Make sure you use your promo code FLYOVER for your exclusive discount.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev7 uses GoBHB. GoBHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Flyover Conservatives podcast with David and Stacey Whited. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave us a comment below. Lastly, if you enjoyed today's podcast, share with those who came to mind. Be blessed and make it a great day.